All right, guys, how's everyone doing? This is just a video to show y'all what I want from Discussion Post 3. Now, in Discussion Post 3, you're just going to be reading a poem and explicating it or explaining it. And I want you to first read the poem aloud, then I want you to pick 3 or 4 terms from our poetry reading list and identify them in the poem. And then I just want you to give your interpretation of what the poem is about. And hopefully it will lead to a really good discussion between you and the poem, you and your classmates, and just give y'all a ton of good poems to recite. Reciting poetry is one of my favorite things to do. I love it. It's nice to hear the language roll off your tongue, and hopefully, y'all will feel the same way. So, without further ado, let's go ahead here. I'm going to read you Thomas Lux's Refrigerator 1957. Lux was one of my favorite poets. He recently died. He was the Bourne professor of poetry at Georgia Tech for a long time, and his poems are very surreal, incorporate a lot of humor with ultimately serious undertones. I like that in poetry when humor and seriousness are done and done well. All right, so first I'm going to read the poem. Refrigerator 1957. More like a vault. You pull the handle out, and on the shelves, not a lot. And what there is, a boiled potato in a bag, a chicken carcass under foil, looking dispirited, drained, mugged. This is not a place to go in hope or hunger, but just to the right of the middle door shelf, on fire, a lit from within red, heart red, sexual red, wet neon red, shining red in their liquid, exotic, aloof, slumming in such company, a jar of maraschino cherries. 3/4 full, fiery globes like strippers at a church social. Maraschino cherries. Maraschino. The only foreign word I knew. Not once did I see these cherries employed, not in a drink, nor on top of a glob of ice cream, or just pop one in your mouth. Not once. The same jar there through an entire childhood of dull dinners. Balled meat, pocked peas, and, see above, boiled potatoes. Maybe they came over from the old country, family heirlooms, or were status symbols bought with a piece of the first paycheck from a sweatshop which beat the pig farm in Bohemia, handed down from my grandparents to my parents to be someday mine, then my child's. They were beautiful, and if I never ate one, it was because I knew it might be missed, or because I knew it would not be replaced, and because you do not eat that which rips your heart with joy. All right. It's an incredibly beautiful poem, lovely poem. All right, so first thing that I notice as I'm coming to this is a poem about food, specifically maraschino cherries. In that regard, it is an ode. All right, it's a lyric poem, but more specifically, it is an ode. An ode is a poem in praise or in veneration of an object. Here, the object being praised are maraschino cherries. Now, y'all know what maraschino cherries, right? The really red cherries in the red liquid. They're normally reserved for cocktails. I used to eat them just, out of the jar, like the speaker here. So this rings near and dear to me. So it's an ode, ODE, all right? Um, Second thing I notice is off the bat this simile 3/4 full, fiery, like strippers at a church social. Think about that. So the simile is the maraschino cherries are like strippers at a church social. That's such a weird kind of image, but it works there if we think of how they are kind of misplaced, right? Would you expect to see strippers at a church social? For Lux, these maraschino cherries are displaced as well. He talks about, or the speaker talks about, the family's life. They didn't have a lot. Their dinners were kind of bland, but they had these maraschino cherries, which added fire. All right. This lit from within red, heart red, sexual red, wet neon red. Notice the great imagery there. That's yet another term. Okay. This poem is also in free verse. Notice it does not follow a rhyme scheme. There are some internal rhymes, and there may be a few slant rhymes, but overall, this is in free verse. There is not a rhyme scheme. There is not any meter. Another term that you can employ, this poem is largely composed, if not totally composed, let me see, of enjambed lines. That means lines that are not in-stopped, lines that do not form a complete thought. Notice how the lines spill over into each other, right? Shining red in their liquid, exotic, aloof, slumming, in such company, right? It doesn't end on a complete thought in the line. It spills over, slumming in such company, a jar of maraschino cherries. Um, and I love these final three lines. Or because I knew it would not be replaced, and because you do not eat that which rips your heart with joy. So much double meaning there, right? Not only does he not want to eat the cherries, but it can be applied to anything that you don't want to consume or kill or anything like that. Any of your passions. You don't want to suffocate what you love. All right. Now, for me, I interpret this poem again as just an ode to a cherry, but it's also a ode to family as well, right? He's talking about his life, a childhood of dull dinners, bald meat, pocked peas. Talking about his ancestry, how these maraschino cherries reflect some inner passion, some internal emotion when you're thinking about his family. It's also, as I've said before, a poem about not suffocating or killing or disallowing or any other verb you wish to use to eliminate that which gets you going, gets you up in the morning, right? It could be art, could be maraschino cherries, it could be music, anything like that. You want to preserve these things, keep them alive, okay? Um, Notice something too. This is also something worth pointing out. This poem takes the shape of a refrigerator. Notice how refrigerators are vertical, right? They tend to be pretty cumbersome. This poem kind of gives this appearance of a refrigerator, something really packed, really dense, which is why I like it as well. Again, notice the date, good specificity, right? Clearly a poem of childhood, of longing. And you get that sense that he's longing for this childhood remembrance again. Well, that about does it for this one. Hopefully, this gave you some guidance, and I very much look forward to listening and reading your discussion post 3. All right, y'all. Have a good one. Bye.